Before we start today's show today, I want to thank our great new sponsor, MyPillow. That's right, MyPillow. They sent me one of those, Mike Lindell and the guys did, and I've been sleeping on it for a couple of weeks now, and I've never slept better. Hey, I've got a huge and busy schedule. Not only do I do the show, but we run an advertising agency. We help other podcasters with their shows throughout the country. We're constantly talking to folks, going to concerts. So my sleep is very important to me. So thanks to MyPillow. And remember, it's got a 10-year warranty guarantee, 60-day money-back guarantee. And yeah, you see MyPillow in stores like Walmart and Walgreens, but you can only get the premium pillows by calling MyPillow directly. So grab you one of those premium pillows. Call this number right here, 1-800-338-2330, 1-800-338-2330. Reference the code SGNP when you talk to them and say, hey, I want that premium pillow that Darren on SGNP has. It's that simple. They'll sell it to you, and it'll make life a whole lot better. So if you're having trouble sleeping, call MyPillow today, 1-800-338-2330. Use the code SGMP or go to their website, mypillow.com, and check them out. Hey, make sure you tell them SGNP sent you.
Welcome to SGNP with your hosts, Darren Sutherland and Jeff Steele, one of the fastest growing Christian music podcasts of its kind. Darren and Jeff discuss industry information you will not find from your local radio station or in a magazine. Sit back for the next bit and take a listen to SGNP. The fun is about to begin.
And welcome again to Southern Gospel News Podcast. About lost my breath there, Jeff. SGNP, Darren Sutherland, and the good doctor, Jeffrey Steele. Jeff, how you doing, my man?
Well, I'm doing good. It's pouring rain here where I am. So, if you like a rainy day, and I do, you're doing well.
Big weekend for you, huh? All up in South Carolina, down in the middle Georgia, and traveling around, huh?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you something, though. I've never been a huge fan of GPS, and I made a mistake. I'm going to take responsibility for it. We left Williamston, South Carolina, and like a dummy, I plugged in Tabernacle Baptist Church in Vidalia, Georgia.
Yeah.
And after about 45 minutes of driving, I looked at my wife and I said, let's just stop for a minute. And what I figured out was that GPS was just about to take us on every back road and pig trail across the state of Georgia down to Vidalia. And I said, no, I want to go on Interstate 85. So I just plugged in Atlanta. And after an hour and a half of driving around the back roads, I told my church, I said, look, it would come up with things like turn right on Jim Smith Road. I mean, Jim Smith never had his name called on the GPS in his life.
Yeah.
But we finally got back through Anderson, back to the interstate. And my goodness, I was so frustrated I could have just exploded. But we made it eventually.
Jeff, one of these days we're going to do a show and we're going to interview various people from various music industries. We're going to do bus stories. And we'll get my buddy Stacy Newbern on, that's a bus driver for a lot of different folks. And we'll tell some fun bus stories out there about the different groups and what's happened. And I'm sure we could make a few people laugh and make America's Home Videos if we actually had the video for it.
I wish you'd go back and rephrase that and say how much fun we're going to have talking about bus stories. I don't have a bus story really that's that positive. All my bad memories kind of go around bus stories, so that'll be a good show.
It'll be a funny show because we'll find out what's going on behind the veil. Hey, just to let our listeners know, we're humbled and we thank you for listening to SGNP, where it's all about the gospel. Jeff, we're blown away by the amount of listeners we've gotten, and I'm going to let the cat out of the bag and just be honest with some folks and tell them today since what we've been doing.
Well, one question I've got from where I sit, I pastor a church. I preach and sing all over the country for a living, and I pastor the church here. I'm the senior pastor of Redeeming Grace Church in Coleman, and our son, Brad, in addition to singing with the group, he also is the worship pastor there. So we might kind of plead ignorance on this, but you own a big advertising agency in the city of Atlanta. Maybe you've got more answers than I do. why don't you talk about how the show has kind of progressed and come about? Because you know more about that than I do. I couldn't listen to
Jeff,
the first 3 shows. I didn't know how to download the podcast.
You didn't know how. You're exactly right. And let me say this before we start, and we're saying this humbly, because one of the reasons we started this show to begin with is because personally, I'm a huge fan of the business. You know I always have been. You've known me for 20 years. We've talked when I've been outside of the business. I've made different offerings to get involved in other parts of the business. Just nothing has never fit until we started doing this show. And once we committed to doing this, and I've helped at the highest levels of Christian music, from the Dove Awards on down at the Gospel Music Association with my friend Jackie Patillo and so many others. But I kept hearing this, Jeff, and it just, at 48 years old, it grinded my spirit. And it bothered me when I would talk to my friends and they would talk about how the crowds are down and how gospel music is not as popular as it once was and things are going. But let me give credit to where credit's due, okay? Since we started this show April the 6th, Jeff, April the 6th of 2018. That's 18 days since we've started this show, okay? We've had a grand total. Are you ready for this? And this is for an industry that's supposedly dead and dying to a lot of people. Now, I don't think so. 46,698 downloads. 46,698 downloads as of right now. And by the time we get to the end of this show in 30 minutes, I'm going to tell what our total is then. Jeff, that is over that's right at 2,600 downloads a day. 26.
And it's worldwide.
It's worldwide. You know, 40 of the 46,000, 42,000 of them are in the United States. But we've got listeners in Ireland that is running crazy numbers. We've got listeners in Canada that's running crazy numbers, which we're just totally. And Jeff, let's just be truthful about this. And I'm going to be just as gut honest as I can to be from an advertising perspective, from a brand perspective. And I'm talking to every group today, every fan, every soloist, every industry person, and everybody who loves a good gospel song. I'm going to be talking directly at you today. Jeff, truth of the matter is, if we would have done this show for 3 months and looked down and had 6,000 listeners, we would have probably been satisfied. And we would have laughed and said, hey, we got something and we're having a lot of fun. But since day one, our sponsors have helped us out. Toccoa Falls College, Tony Kugore's Barbecue and Grill, and Kia USA, and the car manufacturer. And Jeff, I'm just blown away. And we went with this mantra, Jeff, and I believe it sticks with us: to edify, to inspire, to encourage, and entertain. So everything we say, we're running through this filter. Now, I had somebody say to me the other day, Jeff, and I'm not going to reveal who they are. They said, well, those guys have got a lot of listeners, but are they going to be like that old blog that was out about gospel music a few years ago? Jeff, I want you to answer that for everybody that's listening from you in the industry that knows you. Are we going to be like that blog as we move down the road?
Well, I'm going to be honest. You said, let's be honest. We really don't know. We're going to do our best. The growth early has been very encouraging. But, you know, as with anything, I don't care what it is. You know, the NFL, as great as their success has been, I can take you back to a day when it wasn't all that much. They didn't even pack out the stadiums they were playing in, which were a lot smaller than they are now. And if you were to ask them today, is it going to be as good in 10 years as it is now? If they're smart, they'll say time will tell. And I'll say something about us. In a moment of brutal honesty, I'll just say time will tell. Part of it is the blessing of God, but part of it is our management of the blessing of God. I'm not above messing stuff up. I can just tell you that. I don't know how it is at your house, but my track record of mistakes in life is long, and I would say as long as we'll stay faithful to God and try our best to apply the best stewardship principles we had, I'd say the future is bright, but time will tell.
We've got to trust the good Lord. But let me tell you something the good Lord has given us in the year 2017 and 2018 that a lot of people I don't think utilize. You know what that is? Data. The box doesn't lie. The box doesn't lie. Of those 46,000 listeners, let me just break it down for you, Jeff. 60% of them are women. 40% are men. That's good when it comes to decision makers. Who makes the decision in the household, Jeff, ultimately? You can say you do, but it's Sherry at the end of the day. Sherry gets what Sherry wants
I can tell you.
Yeah.
You got that right. I mean, there's no question about that.
Let's just take the gospel music industry as a business right now. Let's take it as a business, Jeff. And folks, we want to help your thought process grow so we can expand this industry that we all love and admire. Okay? Jeff, let's talk about, when I dissect the things that we talk about, edify, inspire, encourage, and entertain. You know what the Latin root for the word edify is? House or temple. House or temple. So, we got to take care of our house. And unfortunately, Jeff, as I look at our house that we're in, and I'm looking at the data, and my producer Nick sat here this morning, and our sales guy sat here this morning, and we examined websites. We examined magazines. We've been listening to radio stations all across the country and on networks and this, that, and another. We're not going to mention them. Everybody can look them up themselves. But, Jeff, I'm going to say this, and I say this with all humbleness. I'm going to say something that a lot of folks will agree with, or they won't agree with, or they say, he don't know what he's talking about. But, Jeff, the industry's cannibalizing itself. I said that. It's cannibalizing itself. We're singing to the same crowds. We're performing to the same crowds, and we're advertising to the same crowds. We've got to get out of the box and reach a whole new segment of population. And everybody says to me, Darren, man, that population base for Southern gospel music is old. Let me give you some stats real quick, Jeff. You're going to laugh at this. Fourth quarter of 2017, how many social media users were they in the United States, do you think? Take a guess.
Well, I have no idea.
Try 240 million, okay? You ready for this?
There's only 330 million here.
Exactly. So 100 million folks. I guess all those are the homeless folks and the real rich folks that refuse to use social media. But I use it every day. Do you use it every day?
I keep it on in the background in my office all day. I don't sit on there all day.
Yeah.
But if something were to happen, I would immediately have access to it.
All right. Of the ages 45 and above, Jeff, 20% of America's population, ages 45 and above, 20% is social media active. That tells me 47.5 million people above 45 years old, which is Southern gospel and gospel music's sweet spot, is social media active. That's huge. Is the numbers not huge?
Oh, there was a breakthrough. I remember one time I was talking to Gerald Wolfe, and, Southern Gospel was about the last batch of people who still were selling cassette tapes. And everybody was asking the question because Bill Gaither told me 5 years before it happened that we were all going to CDs and hardly anybody believed him. And Bill Gaither told me probably 3 or 4 years ago that the CD era was over.
Yeah.
And that doesn't surprise me much. But Gerald Wolfe said, I can tell you when we're going from cassettes to CDs. And I said, when? He said, when Buick puts a CD player in their cars, because he, like you, had done a lot of research. He determined that a lot of people who are Southern gospel fans drive Buicks. And he said, when they go to CDs, that's when we'll go to CDs. And sure enough, when Buick made the switch, so did our people. And, almost overnight, it was all CDs that we were selling. Matter of fact, when we were in South Carolina the other night, and a guy walked up to me and handed me one of our cassettes. He said, do you know what this is? I said, sir, I can barely remember because we've all been selling CDs for so long.
If 20% of Americans over 45 interact on social media, that means from 45 and above, there's an estimated crowd of over 5 million if we just reach 10%. Let's just say 10% of the population over, and I think it's going to be more, but 10% over the population of 45, if they like gospel music in any form or fashion, That's 5 million people, Jeff. Are we even broaching 5 million people as an industry today, would you think?
Well, let me ask you another question.
Go ahead.
Because, Faith Hill used to be with our group.
Right.
And I asked one day, I said, your average project will sell 3 million copies. And we think that's great. Mm-hmm. But there's 7 billion people in the world, and 3 million hardly makes a dent into 7 billion. So it's all about where is the market, where are the people, and of course you're specifying specifically America. But man, if you wanted to create China as a marketplace, and somebody might say China, that's the most populated nation in the world. No, it's not. India is the most populated nation on earth. And when you start to talk about their population numbers, you're really talking about something there that would dwarf everything we're saying about America.
No doubt, Jeff. Hey, we got to take a break, pay a few bills. We're going to come back, and I'm going to give you a little insight on where we need to go and what we need to do to help grow Southern gospel and gospel music in general. You're listening to SGMP with your host, Darren Sutherland, and the good doctor, Jeff Steele.
Hey, this is Mac Powell, and you're listening to SGNP, where we edify, inspire, encourage, and entertain with the help of gospel music.
Come see what all the smoke is about at Tony Gore's Barbecue and Grill in the heart of the Smokies, Sevierville, Tennessee. Start off with T's loaded tater chips, some great sweet tea, then have some of his famous fried chicken, a pulled or sliced pork plate, or the best barbecue ribs in the Smokies. And oh, did we mention homemade mac and cheese? And dessert lovers, it's worth the trip just for a piece of cake. Voted the best barbecue in the Smokies, Tony Gore's Barbecue and Grill in Sevierville, Tennessee. And remember, gospel music fans, you never know who you'll see while at Tony Gore's Barbecue and Grill. For more information, visit them 24/7 at TonyGore.com.
Welcome back to SGMP. Darren Sutherland and the good doctor, Jeff Steele, here this afternoon. So, Jeff, we're talking numbers. We're talking data. We're talking advertising. We're talking brand. We're talking groups. We're talking industry. We're talking how the fans can help. We're talking about an industry that's some analytics. And we're talking about some say an industry's passing away. And we're seeing it different since April 6th when we started this podcast. And we've had great guests like Jason Crabb, Libby Perry Stuffle, Mac Powell, Michael Booth's coming up. Marty Rayburn's coming up. Different folks are coming up with us. Jeff, what's your thoughts?
Okay, we always said we were going to be honest with each other on this show.
Yes, sir.
And I'm finna hit you with some honesty now.
I want you to.
And I'm not mad with you, and we've been friends for a long time, and I hope we'll be friends after I say this.
Yeah.
You have given some numbers there that I know are factual. I know a lot of people heard them, and I'm just telling you, Darren, I'm having trouble keeping my eyes open because while I know there are a lot of people that listen to this show who are industry people, they're industry savvy and all that, but the reality is they know, with the exception of the specific numbers that you're giving, they know everything you're saying, and many of them, I'm not saying they're ignorant or stupid, I just know where they live because I live in the same place. They know what you're saying, and they have pretty much decided to totally reject what you're saying because in reality, we're an industry that come every Wednesday or Thursday, we've got to leave home and go out and make enough money to survive. And when we get to the places we're going, most of the time we're just asking, why are we here? Because, the crowds are down. You mentioned that. And you said that. And look, I get where you're at right here. You said everybody believes crowds are down. And then you said, but I don't believe it. Well, the reality is that crowds are down.
Well,
let
me finish.
In some real Southern gospel hotspots.
You quoted me wrong there. I said I believe crowds are down. But I also said I believe the fans are there. I just don't think we're reaching out of the box to get them. I don't think promoters are doing their homework. I'm just being honest. We got some great ones. Robert York is one of my best friends, and he'll ask me from time to time, Darren, what should I do? But then I look at other promoters in other areas that's doing things differently, and they're drawing crowds. And Jeff, we're in a date and time. Let me give you an example of something, okay? When we were examining stuff, and this is going to sound harsh, but remember what you said a little bit ago. You said, Gerald Wolfe said, and I quote, and I'm quoting you what you said Gerald said, when Buick starts putting CD players in everybody's cars, everybody's going to CDs. People have asked me, well, why don't y'all play music on your show? We can't afford the BMI rights, just being honest. That's the copyrighter rights. So we're talking about it to make it, we're talking about it to help make the industry better, not to hurt the industry. Edify, inspire, encourage, and entertain. That's what we're doing. But think about this, Jeff. Think about this. There was a date and time when you would see 6, 7, 8, 10 car dealers in the Birmingham paper, in the Tennessean in Nashville, in the Charlotte Observer, in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, in the Birmingham Herald, whatever it is, in the Mobile Star, in the Montgomery Daily paper, in the Jackson paper. You would look in that newspaper and you would see 10, 12 car dealers, and they would lock up every single ad in a full page, and they would pay up a bunch of money for every single ad. Pick up a newspaper today. How many car dealers are there, Jeff, at the most? 1 or 2?
Well, it's not just that. Nobody's reading the newspaper.
Okay. My case in point. Does that mean the car business has died? Does that mean people have quit buying cars? No, people have started looking for other ways to find that car. That's what I'm saying to groups. That's what I'm saying to soloists. That's what I'm saying to fans. We as an industry have got to look to other ways to promote our groups. When I said cannibalize earlier, I pick up one popular magazine that's turned into, quite frankly, a trade publication. I look at websites. We've got groups going to events, paying to sing at these events, and there's 10 other groups paying the same amount. And Jeff, I'm telling the truth here, and we're being blunt honest, the 10 groups end up singing to each other, because nobody's bringing in the outside folks. So you say, where's the crowds? How do we get the crowds? That's what we've got to break down and do. We got to think outside the box. That's what I'm saying.
But you used a little bit, though, of a false analogy, and it was apples and oranges, because you talked about people looking for different ways to buy cars and car dealers looking for different ways to advertise and reach the people. Here's the simple truth. We have to have a car. We don't have to go to a concert. No,
we don't have to have a concert, but we're going to listen to gospel music, are we not?
And there are many ways to do that in the privacy of one's own home. I've always said what has killed the crowds at Southern gospel concerts, in addition to the fact that we have so many people who do it on a very similar basis, and you're so right about that. But I talk to people all the time, and I say, you going to the big concert this weekend? And they invariably will answer, say, no, I'm going to watch the Gaither special on TV. It's not a special, it's on every week. Or they're going to watch, we just got through, the Steels did, we just got through doing the Guy Penrod show out at Daystar in Dallas.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people going to sit home and watch, they'll watch the Steels, or they'll watch some other group on Guy's show. They love Guy Penrod. They love to sit in the easy chair. They don't like to go to auditoriums with a lot of stairs and have to walk around and take a chance on falling down. Just being honest now, that's our people. That's our demographic. And then when you bring it to their church, bring it right to their doorstep, if you bring it to them on Sunday morning, they'll climb the walls over it, but they won't pay one dime to go across the street to another church on a Friday night to hear it. That's the problem we're facing, is that we are literally inundated with choices. We have so many choices here in America. Now, that's not true if you live in Ireland. That's not true if you live in Central or South America. But right here, it's absolutely true. And I'll tell you somebody else that's fighting that same battle right now, you wouldn't believe it, is the NFL. Their attendance figures are down. Their sales as far as merchandise are down. Not near as much as ours maybe, but they're still down. And, you know, they're already beginning to approach some of these same numbers that you're looking at for our industry. and say, we better attack now. We better do something now. And it used to be that our fan base was getting older, and many of them were passing on. It's to the point now where our performers are passing on.
You're exactly right. Jeff, let me stop you right there and ask you this. Now, I realize the Steels are a bad analogy because you guys, you're a pastor. That's your primary responsibility. You travel a couple of weekends a month, so sometimes 3, sometimes 4. I don't know your exact travel schedule. You're always busy when we talk, just like I'm always busy when we talk. When is the last time you saw a gospel group perform outside of the realm of being in a concert / arena / convention center or a church at another venue outside of one of those two? When's the last time you saw that?
I don't know that I've ever seen that.
You see them in fairs and festivals, used to, all the time.
Yeah, I do. I see some of that. But now here's the deal. Because we've done it, everybody does it, whether it's a fair or a festival or an electrical co-op that has a big day of gospel music. Mm-hmm. Those folks really pay. That's a good paying date. And that's why people take those dates, because in most cases, when you play a fair or a festival, we used to do the Mississippi State Fair because I used to live there, and people know us there, and they'd have us at the Mississippi State Fair. Well, there's tens of thousands of people there, and we would be playing, I hate to say it's just the truth, we played, when we went to the Mississippi State Fair, a big tent, because a lot of country music stars came through there. It is the Budweiser Pavilion. They sponsor the pavilion. They have a gospel day, and we went because every time we went and played the Mississippi State Fair, they wrote us a check on that date for $3,500, and that's why we played under the Budweiser Pavilion. That's why we did that date. But I'm telling you the truth, and I don't care much who says any different. You don't draw the crowds there. They're just not there.
Let me ask you this. So would you say the only reason you did it, I mean, so would your crowd at the Mississippi State Fair equal that of a church that you would sing at on a regular basis?
I would say yes.
Okay, so now let's pause right there. Let me pause you right there. And this is good radio and good entertainment. And folks, we're questioning each other because we want to make this industry better. We want to make it stronger, and we're just trying to provide a little insight. And so we're throwing this out there. So if that's a brand new audience, primarily at the fair, and I would say probably 50% of the audience is probably your non-traditional church crowd. Okay. I got to be honest, Darren, that just from having been there, and we did the state fair in Mississippi. We've done other state fairs and festivals, things like that. It's pretty much our regular audience. So I would love to think, from the ministry aspect, I'd love to think that, praise God, we're playing under the Budweiser Pavilion. There's a bunch of alcoholics going to hear us today, but the alcoholics don't even know who we are in most cases. But you could put, I don't even know what country started to talk about, but you could put country people in there, and they draw 3,500, 4,000 people to the Budweiser Pavilion. Let's put it.
We didn't draw that kind of crowd.
Let's put it in advertising terms. Here's what I'm getting at, Jeff. If you play venues that there's not your typical gospel crowds there, you're liable to build a new audience, and you're liable to reach people that you wouldn't normally reach in a church. You know that. You see how church.
You just turned into the most obvious dichotomy here, and that is, and I get why you would think that way. It's a secular event. It's a secular venue. We ought to be reaching new people. What I'm saying is, we played those events and still do from time to time. We played those events, and we didn't sing to a different crowd. We didn't sing. I mean, if you're at the Mississippi State Fair and you got a choice between riding the Ferris wheel or the Tilt-A-Whirl or whatever they have there, or coming to see a gospel group you've never heard of sing songs you're not really familiar with, what are you going to do? I paid to get in the fair. I'm going to ride the rides if I'm your normal person. And you asked me.
I'm being honest and ask you, but if you do not show the people what you're made of and what you have, then you have no opportunity. Let me ask you this question, Jeff, and I'm drawing these parallels because I'm bringing it from the advertising world, and I see the data and I see the numbers. Chick-fil-A, let's take Chick-fil-A, for instance. They don't advertise on Christian radio. The big Salem stations or the big other stations. You don't hear them that often. They'll do a promotion every now and then, but you would think they would own the station. Every time you turn it on, you'd hear K-Love talk about Chick-fil-A, or you hear Way FM or the Southern Gospel station just talk about Chick-fil-A. Do you know why they don't advertise on there, Jeff? Because they
have an audience.
They already own the audience. The Christian folks.
Yeah, that's really what I meant to say. They're doing what they're doing really out of the goodness of their heart to say, thank you, we're on your side, we support your perspective, but they don't have to advertise. We're already there. You're already there.
They're into sports. That's where they're building their audience. So what I'm saying to gospel groups and soloists and friends and all this stuff, okay, what I'm saying to all you guys is this. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep plugging along, do what you do. But step out a little bit and try something new every once in a while, because guess what? You're going to lose money on church dates. I'm going to say this to fans. Take, if you've got a grandson, you know, you may love, and I always say this, you may love Gold City. But guess what? You've got a grandson. Why not pick him up a Jason Crabb CD, something that'll identify with him? Last night, heard the Booth brothers. Michael Booth, great. Ronnie Booth, great. Paul Lancaster, great job in a small church. They took a Stephen Curtis Chapman song from the 90s and remade it, and it sounded as good as anything they did. What I'm saying to you, Jeff, is in order to grow the base, we've got to expand the base. And I think we've got to get out of the box a little bit. I mean, you say to the local groups out there, guess what? The churches are not as prevalent having Sunday night service as they once did. Jeff, you remember a day back in the 80s and 90s where if you'd have sang every Sunday night you'd have sang 7 days a week, correct?
That's exactly right. And I'll give you another example. It just happened. Mm-hmm. This past weekend, we were booked in formerly one of our hottest areas, not just for the Steels, but for gospel music and gospel radio.
Yeah.
Okay, the gospel radio station's still there, but they don't even chart for the magazines that service our industry. They're they just don't care anymore. They've lost interest, and I can see why they lost interest. All it does is takes up time and energy for them to chart for the magazines. And the church called us and wanted us to come on a Saturday night. First thing I did was, out of professional courtesy, I made sure there weren't any other concerts going on that night, promoted by some of our good promoters. They still work this area quite often. When I found out that the night was open as far as other concerts, they said, well, what kind of money do you need to come? And I told them two things I tell every pastor that calls. I said, here are our needs. But, sir, if money becomes the only reason we can't do this event, let's find a way to do it. Well, he did find a way to do it. He went out and got a local car dealership to sponsor the event. Now, you asked me, was the crowd good? Well, yeah, it was a good crowd. It wasn't what I've seen in the past, not nearly. But the car dealer came up and right at the first of the thing, he led in a word of prayer, told about his car lot, and he was through. And I told the pastor of the church when it was over, I said, pal, you feel bad because this car dealer put up the money for the concert, and there weren't as many people here maybe as you thought there should have been, or as I had hoped there would be. It was a good crowd, just wasn't what I remembered from the past. I said, but think about this. If that car dealer in this town sells one or two cars over the next 6 months or a year, this night will have been a victory for him.
Bingo.
And it very well may happen. Then the car dealer will be happy. He was excited anyway because he got to get up in front of the crowd and tell about his place. And he's been a long-time supporter of the Steel, so he was happy as he could be. I said, but from a financial standpoint, this guy sells two cars in the next 6 months to a year out of this crowd, which is very possible. He's going to be happy because he's got his eyes on the long term and not on tonight. So I guess I've kind of taken over and gone to your side now.
Yeah, Jeff, let me stop you right there because we're in a good place. Speaking of car dealers, let's pay some bills and talk about our good friends from Kia USA. Can we do that? You're listening to Jeff and Darren right here. Fun topic today, trying to expand our horizons and putting steel against steel, as the Gaithers once sang. You're listening to SGNP.
SGNP is brought to you by Kia. Join SGNP this summer for the Kia Summer Nights Concert Series, a free concert at select local Kia dealers. The first concert is June 14th with the McCameys at Julio Jones Kia in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. It's the Kia Summer Nights Concert Series, starting June 14th with the McCameys at Julio Jones Kia in Tuscaloosa. Part of Kia, America's best value summer event. America loves Kia and gospel music. It's the Kia Summer Nights Concert Series, absolutely free. Brought to you by SGNP and Julio Jones Kia in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, June 14th.
Jeff, we just came out and talked about a great car dealer sponsoring concerts, did the events, this, that, and another. You know, we work with a lot of car dealers and manufacturers in our life, and car dealers are good folks. They really are. Everybody always talks about what the bad folks are and blah, 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 blah. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be doing this show, would we?
Well, they say the same thing about lawyers, and I'll tell you, if you ever get in trouble and you need a good lawyer, you won't be saying it very long.
That's exactly right. Jeff, we've talked about a subject today where we're talking about how do we build the crowd. And I'm saying we have to expand the box. You're saying we've tried to expand the box and it's not there. If we're not expanding the box, then let's just pack it up and go home. I say wait a minute. You misquoted me a little bit. I didn't say there's nothing there. We can't expand the box. What I'm saying is it will do no good at the point we've reached now, where we continue to try to expand the box the same way we've always tried to expand the box, the traditional way we've always tried to expand the box. We got to get a new box. Let me ask you this right here. The music, it's turned in so many directions. I remember, if you read gospel music history, you look at the 50s and the 60s, and you look at the quartet style of music that was so prevalent there and so popular. They were singing major halls and this, that, and another. And, Hovey and the Statesmen, the Blackwood Brothers, and the Harmoniers, and the Lefevres. I could go on and on and on and on. Then the music started to change some. The Hensons came in, brought some drums, and we could do an entire show on this. Brought a new sound to it. Some folks were very afraid of this. You saw this happen in your career and in your ministry. When folks started using drums in church, they ran. As the music progresses, some folks have fought it, okay? And we could do a whole show on this. Do you believe by them fighting the progression of the music, and all music changes over time, we know this may have hurt the music somewhat?
Well, I know this. I know that a good analogy to that would probably be country music, because their music has changed. It just has. I mean, what passes for country music today, and I'm not even against it. I like all kinds of music at some point. But what passes for mainline country music now is what we called old-fashioned Southern rock and roll back when I was in high school. And what's happened because of that is it sprung up a whole new genre or format in radio that's called classic country. I mean, you go to any city in America now, you're going to find one of the strongest signals out there is the signal that's broadcasting classic country. And I know a lot about classic country because, number one, I'm old, and number two, my dad, God rest his soul, was very heavily involved both in the promotion and he's a DJ, best radio man I ever knew. And I know a lot about it because I know a lot about the newer country, too. Like I said, Faith was in our group for quite a while, and I get it. I know what it's all about. But what they did with classic country is because not all those folks have died. A lot of them still sing on the Grand Ole Opry. A lot of them still tour, and they found themselves without a voice in country radio as a format. Somebody got smart and started another format, classic country, and They're the big winners. The artists are the big winners. The promoters are the big winners, because now you don't have to be Garth Brooks. You don't have to be Tim and Faith. You don't have to be those folks to be able to to perform and still have an audience. Clint Black was through this area not long ago. Now, he didn't play the BJCC in Birmingham. He didn't play the Von Braun Civic Center in Huntsville. But he found a small venue, not too small, but a good-sized venue in one of the small towns around here. And he went and played there and packed the place out because Clint Black, who's a great writer and a great singer, one of my favorites, he no longer has a voice on the current mainstream country station, but boy, he's got a voice on the classic country stations. My first trip ever to Cullman, Alabama. We lived in Nashville. Tony Gore, our dear friend, lived in Clanton, Alabama at the time, and Cullman was about halfway between the both of them. He called one day, as giddy as a schoolboy, and he said, "Oh, you've got to come. We've got to meet up in Cullman." I said, well, first of all, where is Cullman? What is Cullman, and why are we meeting there? He said, "The Voice is coming to Cullman." I know who he was talking about. It was Vern Gosdin. Vern Gosdin was coming to Cullman. And listen, when he walked on stage, not only did he not any longer have a voice at mainstream country radio, the guy, I'm not kidding, comes out on stage, and he's got his keys, his big round thing of keys hooked to one of his belt buckles. I mean, that's how far removed Vern Gosdin was from mainstream country. But I'm going to tell you what, when that old boy sung Chiseled in Stone, everybody in that place, about 800 people had gathered to hear him sing. Everybody in that place like it came apart when he sang Chiseled in Stone.
And you know what, Jeff? You know what, Jeff? You're exactly right. And I honestly believe if a lot of regular folks out there heard Karen Peck and New Rivers sing Everybody's Going Through Something, I think it resonates. I just think we've got to figure out new ways. You're writing a lot of ways. I'm writing a lot of ways. But we've got to start thinking outside the box, my man, to get these these great messages out there.
Let me wrap my part up by saying this. If you are a big fan of the Primitives, the Inspirations, go on and on with groups that fit that genre, I don't think, it's just me talking, I don't think the answer is to create a chart where a progressive Southern gospel artist is at number 3 and one of the groups from yesteryear is at number 4. Because number 3 will hate number 4, number 4 will hate number 3, and I don't mean it.
Hate's a harsh word, but we understand what you're saying.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to cut to the chase. Somebody, in my opinion, ought to do what talk radio did for AM radio years ago. Somebody's going to get smart one of these days. Maybe it'll be me or you, I don't know. And we're going to start a format of Southern gospel music that's just for that crowd. Let me tell you, they're out there. And then there are a lot of people who love Brian Free and Assurance. A lot of people love Karen Peck and New River. And on and on and on. There are groups who are closely related to what modern country is today. And there are groups that are very closely related to what classic country is today. And while there may not be enough room in that ring for both of them, there's room to buy another ring. That's just all I'm going to say.
You know what? You're so true in that. And guess what? Look at the stats. Go back and listen to the numbers we were talking about in social media earlier. You've got a group, think outside the box to promote it. I'm going to say this, Jeff, and I'm going to tell a little secret here, okay? People said, how'd you get the numbers you got for the show? We hadn't marketed toward the Southern gospel music people, Jeff. All righty? They're listening.
We shot with a shotgun instead of a BB gun.
Yeah. Yeah. Instead of a BB gun, we took a shotgun.
We sprayed pellets everywhere.
Now, we may have lost, you know what? Guess what? You know who some of the biggest gospel music fans in the world are? You ready for this? Elvis fans. Elvis fans.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
You know who some of the biggest gospel music fans in the world are? Walk down to your local American Legion. Walk in there to the Veterans of the United States. Walk in there one night when they're playing pool and talking. Say, do y'all like gospel music? It's right in there next to their mama and the Bible in this great country. You follow me?
And right now, as we're speaking right now, in Finland right now, Jim Murray is in Finland tonight. Original member of the Imperials. He's really a legend in America as far as music goes. Jim Murray is in Finland tonight playing an Elvis tribute show.
You know what? Great stuff. Jeff, I love you, man. I'm thankful we can talk and sharpen iron on iron. And if you're a fan, you say, how can I help? How can I help? Just share. Share our show, share our ministry, and no, this is not a ministry in the tip of the word that we're collecting money and that sort of thing, but we feel it's our heart to share to try to grow the music in the best way that we know how. And for those out there that's saying we're hurting it, I don't believe that. I believe we're doing everything we can to push it out there. Don't you, Jeff?
I don't know how they can say we're hurting it. We're all behind it. We're all about it. It's what I do. It's what I've done for the last nearly 40 years of my life, and I'm trying my best in our situation. Our son is 24 and a half, and after years of refusing to do it, he finally came to us and said he would like to have the job, and he's doing great. People love him, and we eventually won him over. That's what we're trying to do, is win people over.
All goes back to edifying, inspiring, encouraging, and entertaining. Encouraging you today, support, confidence, hope, give support. That sort of thing. One other thing, if you're wondering how to download this on your phone, like Jeff and I have said since we've started a couple of weeks ago, go to somebody under 30 years old and say, hey, will you help me download Southern Gospel News Podcast, SGNP? Will you help me download that? I promise you, they'll download it into your phone. Talked to a lady last night. I was at a concert last night. She said, Darren, why ain't you on the radio? Why ain't you promoting concerts anymore? I said, well, here's why. She said, I've never heard your show. I said, let me see your phone. I popped it in there. 4 shows come up. She said, oh, I'm going to love this. Listen to folks like Jason Crabb. Listen to folks like Liberty Perry Stuffle. If you hadn't listened to the Mac Powell Show, which is a great show, he talks about gospel music, does he not, Jeff? Great show.
Oh, yeah, and our kind of gospel music, too.
Breakthrough show. We've kind of taken it a little long here today, Jeff, but I think we've covered some spots that we need. If you got any questions, please feel free to touch base with us. You can get us through our Facebook page, Southern Gospel News Podcast. Over 3,000 of your best friends have joined it in the past 2 weeks. We look forward to being with you guys. We got a great guest coming on in future weeks, and we're going to have a lot more fun, aren't we, Jeff?
Sure.
Jeff, got one question for you before we leave, my friend. You ready?
What's wrong with living right?
No, that's my saying, dude. I'm supposed to say that. What's wrong with living right anyway? There we go, Jeff.
And I'm supposed to say not one thing.
Not one thing. Let's try that again so we can be professional. We'll leave it in there like this because it's a podcast. We're not radio. Oh, before we leave, got to say hello to our DJ of the week, Mr. Al Fox. Great guy over there at the Blessing 96.1 in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Great guy. Had the opportunity. We've got some good things coming up with radio in the next couple of weeks, and we'll tell them about that at a later date. Jeff, what's wrong with living right anyway? I messed it up.
Not one thing.
There we go. We'll talk to you soon, my friend. Nick's over here just laughing. Nick Hush, that's our producer. Jeff, appreciate the show, buddy.
All right, God bless.
SGNP is excited you chose to listen today. If you'd kindly leave a remark and rating in the podcast remarks section, we surely would appreciate it. Please share with a friend or family member. Look for us on Facebook, Twitter, and our new website, SouthernGospelNewsPodcast.com. And remember the Kia Summer Nights concert series, all 100% free, coming to a town near you. For more information on the concert series or to advertise your products, services, concert event, or new project on SGNP and reach a 100% guaranteed number of people in your area, call Tim Newton at 770-874-3200 or email him today, tnewton@bgadgroup.com. Let us geo-target our ads for you, something radio nor magazine can do.